Being emotionally dull is not about ignoring your emotions. It's not about ignoring the way you feel. It's about understanding your emotions, understanding why they're happening, and using that understanding of your emotions to use them to your advantage. In this video, I'm going to tell you guys a little story about how I became emotionally dull because really I'm not an emotionally dull person. I'm a very energetic, I'm a very happy person, but over the past little while, I've become very neutral in my emotions. And I credit my dullness and emotion to a few different things that I'm going to explain in my story. I'm going to show you guys how I feel on a daily basis, some of the advantages of being emotionally dull, and a rather scary disadvantage, which I want you guys to be aware of if you are planning to become a little bit more emotionally dull. Hi guys, welcome back to DBX Insights. My name is Daniel, and this is a place where we take ordinary people, make them extraordinary so that they can go above and beyond the herd. Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about what it means to be emotionally dull, because I've become a little bit emotionally dull, and this is kind of like my vent to you guys. I'm going to tell you guys a little story. I'm going to tell you some of the advantages and disadvantages of being emotionally dull, and I hope you guys enjoy. I think this will be a really interesting video. So let me tell you a little story about how this all started. So let's go back to before COVID. This was probably a year, 2 years ago. Now, I was a very normal person. I was very energetic, very happy, very lively. I had a lot of friends. Then Corona hit. Corona, it was basically the same thing. I just talked to a lot less people. At certain points we stopped going to school. It would be like you're in school for 3 months and then there's a lockdown, so you stay at home for a month and a bit. So at certain times I did talk to a lot less people, but other than that, life was still pretty normal. I still had sports. I went to play hockey occasionally. I also had basically a full baseball season, so baseball wasn't really any different. And everything was normal up to that point. Now I would say that 7 to 8 months ago, everything kind of changed. They really cut off all the sports, so now there's no outside sports. I can't play baseball. I can't play hockey. You might think it's crazy. They locked all the soccer fields. You can't even go play basketball at some courts because they locked the courts. There's a place by my house with basketball nets, and what they did was they took literal pieces of wood and put it over the nets so you can't shoot in the nets. That's how hard they're trying to deter you from going outside, because right now we're in a lockdown, but nobody's really following the rules. I also lost contact with a lot of friends, but there was a good thing in that. I realized who my true friends were, and I realized that a lot of the people who I thought were my friends were actually just there for the attention and not really friends, not really true friends. Now, some other downsides that came with the lockdown and just being isolated basically by myself is that I lost a lot of good conversations and connections with people. I also lost a lot of drive and motivation to do anything because there's not really much going on. You can't go outside. I can't do the things I love. I can't play sports. I can't even see other people. Going throughout my days only made me even angrier because I'm just thinking constantly about everything that I lost, everything that was taken away from me. And this is my graduating year. I'm in grade 12, and I should be having sports. I should be killing sports, man. We were going to go to OFSA, which is basically like your state championships if you're in the US. I have no prom. I can't even go to people's houses. I can't even have like bonfires or anything. All of that is just canceled. So that in turn was why I became so angry. I was angry for a little while. I'd say like a month or two. Like I didn't want to speak to nobody. I didn't really care about anything. Like to me it was just kind of like whatever, and I just went around with like a grouchy attitude, because what else am I supposed to do? I have nothing for myself. Now in that time I went from a very vibrant, alive person to a person who was basically very isolated. I don't speak to very many people. I don't like to talk to people online like Snapchat or Instagram, because I think those social media platforms are very bad for you. So I don't talk to people on Snap. I don't necessarily call too many people. I don't really call anybody. The only people I speak to are my mother, my brother, the people that I live with. But even them, I'm mostly in my room. I'm mostly alone, listening to music or something, or working. I work a lot too. And so you're basically going from a kid who was very vibrant, very alive, very out there, very extroverted, to someone who was all of a sudden very introverted, very alone, very isolated. So it's a difficult time, put it that way. Now, with all this anger, I had to put it to something else, because I didn't want to put holes in the wall or anything like that. And being angry all the time, sure, you could be angry for a week or something, but to be angry for a month, that's just wasting your time, wasting your life. Why are you going to do that? And I had to make a change. So what I did was I started to work out a lot. Sometimes I was working out 6 times a day, if you can imagine, 6 times a day. So I'd work out for maybe an hour, I would do some skipping, then I would just swing a baseball bat with 5 pounds at the end of it, a pretty heavy bat, all day long. Could be for 6 to 8 hours, because that's how angry I was. I could do that for maybe like a week, 2 weeks straight, every single day, because I just had so much anger because of everything that I felt that I lost. Now, after I went through that period of being very happy, a very vibrant person, to being angry and then isolated and then working out, after all of that, I become a very neutral person. And that, I think, contributes to why I'm feeling emotionally dull. I feel that a major factor of why I became emotionally dull is just due to the lack of connection with people. I don't think someone can necessarily be emotionally dull forever. I think it's really just a stage in their life. So this is probably a stage of my life, and soon enough I will get out of it. But I think that the true key to getting out of being emotionally dull is just to connect with more people. Now, sometimes I do go and play baseball with my friends on the weekends. I only see about 3 or 4 guys. This is literally my only social connection in a week. And so naturally I'm a little more excited, I'm a little more joyous. Now we go there and we start to talk, and it really brings out my old self, because we're playing sports. It's something that I love. I love to talk to people, I love to connect with people. But when you're by yourself, you're isolated, it really takes that connection away. So that's something just to remember. If you are feeling a little bit emotionally dull, you are feeling a little sad or angry, just know that it's just a phase. You'll eventually get through it, and then on the other side is hopefully something even better. Now let's talk a little bit about the advantages of being emotionally dull, because although this has been a very difficult journey, I have actually seen some advantages in the way that I carry myself, in the way that I actually feel. Even though I'm feeling less emotions, I do feel a little bit better, and let me just tell you why. So the first thing I notice when being more emotionally dull is I feel more stable. More stable being that my emotions sway a lot less, which is probably what you expect from someone who's emotionally dull. Now, what does this mean? This means that certain events which I used to get very nervous or very stressed about, they don't really have the same effect. It's more of a neutral stress. It's not even, I wouldn't even call it a stress. It's more just like a slight worry, but even that just doesn't affect me too much. Or even events where something's very exciting, something's very like lively, it doesn't sway me too much off. I'm still somewhat grounded, somewhat neutral, I guess is the way that I can describe it. Now, along with that, I do feel a lot less stress, and I also feel a lot more clear-headed. One thing that I've noticed, which is kind of cool actually, is that I could just be walking, I could be going for a scooter ride, I could be literally sitting on the toilet or doing whatever, and I could just have a clear head. I have literally nothing in my mind. And now that comes with a little bit of a disadvantage, because sometimes my mind is so clear that I can't even remember what I did like 5 minutes ago. I don't know, maybe that's just a weird side effect of it, but of course my memory is not shot. I can remember a lot of things. I have actually a really good memory, but I find that when being emotionally dull, you can kind of like tune out the outside world when you want to, which is kind of nice. That way you're just clear-headed and you allow yourself to basically just relax for a little bit. The last advantage that I notice is that I'm more self-dependent. I don't necessarily have to depend on other people to cheer me up or to get me out of a bad mood, because I'm all by myself. Think about this for a second, okay? If you spend so much time alone and you find a way to be somewhat happy on your own, you enjoy spending time by yourself, then how can anyone really take that away from you? I think a lot of joy and happiness comes from within yourself, because you can't always please other people, and you can't be dependent on other people trying to please you for your own happiness. You should be the one to decide who makes you happy, and it should be yourself. You should make yourself happy. And I guess that when you have no one around you, you find ways to do that. And then you can just enjoy the little time that you have by yourself. Now, I say the disadvantage that I noticed from all of this, and it's kind of scary, is that I feel a lot less remorse. And I know you're probably thinking remorse, like I'm talking about remorse when something bad happens, right? Because you're more emotionally dull, less affects you. And so when something bad happens, I'm not necessarily like, oh my God, like what the hell happened? I'm just like, okay, it's whatever to me, right? Like if something crazy, amazing happens, it's cool, it's whatever. But if something really bad happens, it's also like, it's okay, it's fine, you know? I don't know what else to say. That's one thing I think with being more stable and having your emotions be more grounded, that you're affected a lot less by negative things. But what if those things are really negative and then they drive you to do negative things? Like, let's say you were to get into a fight and you knock some kid out and you like broke his teeth, for example. Not saying that I'd ever do this, but let's just say that for example. I feel like I would feel a lot less remorse. To me, that just seems like something that just happened. Like, I don't feel much remorse for that kid as long as he deserved it. If it was like a kid in a wheelchair, like, buddy, like, you shouldn't do that. But if it's someone who deserved it, it's whatever. If it's someone who's just there, I don't know. I'm still grounded, and that's what's scary about being emotionally dull. Sure, the good things affect you less, but also the bad things affect you less. So if something really bad happens, you wouldn't necessarily dawn on something that happened that was really bad. You don't dawn on much. So to me, the way I see it, it's like whatever happens, happens, and whatever happens is kind of outside of my control for the most part if it doesn't really affect me. So alright guys, that was just a little video on my insights on being emotionally dull. I hope you guys enjoyed my story, just listening a little bit about my whole process in becoming emotionally dull, the advantages and disadvantages of it. I honestly would say to pursue being a little bit more emotionally dull. You don't have to be like stone cold numb, but just be more stable, be more grounded. That way being emotionally dull will help you to make more rational decisions. It will help you to take away a little bit more stress because you're a little bit more grounded. You don't let too much sway you off your path. That's really all for me. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you stayed to the end, give this video a like. Also subscribe. We publish new videos every 3 days. So just know you'll be getting consistent content where you could just talk to me, have a little conversation. It'll be fun, so just subscribe, hit that bell. It's all good. Alright, I've had a blast talking to you guys, so take care and we'll see you next time.